Hello, howdy. You are officially in digital inclusion panel discussion. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today, and thanks to COAVE for hosting COAVE, the official Digital Inclusion Week. Before we dive into our panel discussion, let me briefly walk you through the agenda for today. We have an exciting lineup ahead that I know you're going to find both insightful and inspiring. We'll start with some introductions of our panelists by each of our panelists, who each bring a unique perspective from their programs. Then we'll move to the heart of our session, our panel discussion. During this time, as your moderator, I will guide the conversation with questions that touch on key themes, such as defining digital equity, why it is essential, unique roles of digital inclusion, digital access examples, digital inclusion initiatives. It's going to be an excellent opportunity to hear from our panelists on how they've tackled digital inclusion within their programs. Following the panel, we'll open the floor for Q&A session where you'll have a chance to ask questions and share your thoughts on the topics discussed. We encourage you to engage with the panelists and forward any ideas or challenges you've encountered in your own work. You can submit questions anytime, and we will get to them, hopefully all of them, at the Q&A time. And be sure to mention when you use the Q&A feature at the bottom who your question is in for, if it's a particular panelist or if it's directed to the entire group. Like I said, that Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen in the webinar. If you're on a device like a tablet or a phone, you just have to touch to see that bar again. If you can't figure it out, no worries, put it in chat. Finally, we'll wrap up with closing remarks that'll summarize the key takeaways and highlight actionable next steps, perhaps getting some from you as well. We're really looking forward to this engaging conversation and discussion, and we might even have a little surprise of a poll with the prize. So let's get started. A little behind the scenes. So I'm thrilled to welcome you to this important panel discussion on digital inclusion and collaboration. As the executive director of the Indiana Association of Adult and Continuing Education, or as we affectionately call it, IAACE, I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand how vital digital literacy has become for all adult learners. And I mean, even us and our communities at large. In today's world, access to digital tools and the skills to use them are no longer optional. They are essential for our success in education, employment, and everyday life. At IAACE, we've been working hard with platform use, tech talks, digital skills labs, member resources to give programming to our members, including conference. Like I said, the platform, we offer digital skills labs, tech talks, ensuring that our members not only gain the basic skills that they need, but they also can give them to their students as well But we all need that ability to build the confidence to thrive in this rapidly evolving digital landscape. Through our collaborations, we've been able to bring a digital component to all of our lifelong learners in Indiana. Hopefully, making sure that no one is left behind. This panel today is going to explore how collaborations can bridge the digital divide and open doors for people from all walks of life. I'm excited, I hope you are too, to hear from our esteemed panelists, each bringing their own expertise on how they collectively strengthen these efforts and build more inclusive, digitally connected society. Thanks for being here, and let's get started. Melinda is up first. I'm going to stop my share so that she can share as well. Melinda, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen? All right. My name is Melinda Grismer, and I'm with the Purdue Center for Regional Development. I'm also involved with a local program called the Learning Network. So I bring kind of both perspectives to this discussion. I was involved in writing our state's digital equity plan. And so I wanted to tell you each a little bit about that process so it could hopefully help inform your own understanding of your state's plan and how the funding might help you as an adult education program. Right. In order to do that, before we jump into the specifics, I wanted to give you a little context, which is, sorry, technical difficulties here. I wanted to give you a little context in terms. Basically, during that time, they realized the need for, sorry, having technical difficulties here. Can you all still see me?
We
Okay.
can.
Were you able to see my screen the first time?
We were.
Okay. All right. I'll just tell you a little bit about the BEAD funding and the Digital Equity Act funding, and until I can get my slides to cooperate with me. So basically, if you're not familiar with it, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that came down from the federal government and is passed through funding through the state is eligible to each of our states. And there are kind of two ways to be able to access that. The main way to access that is through our digital equity competitive grants, which just actually happened, and a lot of states have already put together packages. But as that funding rolls out, there'll be lots of opportunities to partner as an adult education program with whoever in your state wrote some of those grants. So definitely be on the lookout for that. The Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Act, which is what that stands for, the BEAD funding, $42.545 billion came out as a result of that. And that's primarily infrastructure funding. And the Digital Equity Act, especially the digital equity competitive grants, had $1.25 billion in funding. And those are those grants I just mentioned that are flowing into the states right now and are pending award from the federal government. So be on the lookout for those, because as a local program, I think there'll be a lot of ways that you can interact, and that funding can help your program be successful as well. All right. Okay. I'm going to go on without slides since I'm having slide difficulty. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the covered populations and how these digital equity plans were written. So each of the states had to cover different populations and make sure that they were really um, touching the needs of each of those covered populations, such as low income households, elderly populations, incarcerated individuals, veterans, people with disabilities, people with language barriers, those that are in rural places. So all of those were areas of coverage that these digital equity plans were trying to hit. So as we know in adult education, we cover those populations all the time. In fact, many of those populations are the heart and soul of our programs. So the equity plans that were written really address those issues, and in many cases, adult education was at the table to write that digital equity plan as they were in Indiana. So reaching out to whoever's funded in your state as those digital equity grants come down is a really great idea in terms of being able to partner, whether it's a university or a government entity or a nonprofit. That's definitely one way that you can help to fortify your own programming's funding and ability to reach those covered populations. So in Indiana, what we did is we had a solution session. Actually, we had 6 of them in which we involved the stakeholders from all across the state. So we had the Department of Corrections, Department of Workforce Development, veterans organizations, uh, AARP, all kinds of organizations that represented each of those covered populations that I talked about a moment ago. And we put together a statewide task force and went out and then had these digital equity solution sessions where we nominated digital equity ambassadors, different organizations that were doing great work, to talk about their work and to bring others to the solution session to talk about the barriers and the challenges, but also talk about how those things could be solved. So that was a little bit about the process that we went through. It's likely that your state went through a similar process if you're not from Indiana. um, some of the lessons we learned, and this is where I feel like it's really, really pertinent to adult education. We learned through all the surveying we did, all the solution sessions, the focus groups, that digital skills basics should not be assumed. And you know this as adult educators, that you shouldn't assume that everyone has the basics down. Many people are still learning skills, they're piecing things together. And so as you design your adult education programs, it makes sense to think about how you can embed those digital skills so that all of your learners you're incorporating opportunities for them to build those digital skills on hopefully a daily basis. The second lesson we learned is that digital equity is essential for healthcare gaps. Now, I know this is not a healthcare webinar, but as an adult education program, you have a unique opportunity to partner with other health education entities. That's one thing the local program that I've worked with has done. We have an organization called Open Door Health Clinic, and we do a lot of work with them in helping just educate people about telehealth appointments, how to navigate those. And then we partner with the Open Door Clinic to do the medical or clinical part of that work. So consider all the potential gaps that you could fill in healthcare by helping in an adult education world, those learners be ready to access healthcare that way. The third of the 4 lessons that we learned was that you can fit a unique kind of niche role in your community. So you can't do it alone. And I think a lot of times as adult education programs, we think, well, we need to meet this need and we need to meet that need, which that's all true. But I think sometimes we forget that other organizations and other partners in your community are doing that work already, and that you could coordinate rather than duplicate services and really work with them to fill those gaps and build on what's already out there. So you might be surprised if you reached out just a little further than your current network in your area, what you might be able to do to help fill the gap and meet digital equity needs in terms of partnerships with those in your community. The last lesson is that digital equity can be another tool for workforce development. And I think we all know in adult education that talking about workforce development really helps our local elected officials or our Chamber of Commerce directors or those that are in economic development work themselves realize the importance of adult education. So, because what we do really is workforce development. The digital skills that we teach their employees help them to access all kinds of things. I know right now I'm working with a particular organization that actually has forklift drivers. So I'm teaching English as a second language to those forklift drivers. And I'm also helping them read the printouts on their autonomous, if you can believe it, autonomous forklifts. And so there's all kinds of technology embedded in each of these workplaces. So if we do more to be the workplace solution, we're going to be seen as a workforce development ally, and definitely an organization that can help from an economic prosperity perspective. So that's the fourth lesson I wanted to share. And then in terms of how to take action on this from a digital equity plan and your program standpoint, definitely learn more about BEAD, which is that program I talked about, the broadband equity access and deployment. That has some infrastructure funding. It also has what's called a challenge program with it, so that if you feel like you don't have the kind of access that is needed in your community, you can challenge the local providers through that process to be providing that even in rural areas. Also, be aware that the digital equity plan is now live in your state and it's being implemented, and there are grants called the Digital Equity Competitive Grants that are being awarded imminently. So definitely reach out to other partners in your community to see how you might help them complete some of that work that they've written into their grant, and become a subcontractor or a funded entity along with them to do the work of digital equity in your community. In addition, I would say be aware of your state's digital equity ecosystem, the organizations that are doing great work, existing barriers and needs that you can help with, and then find a way to plug in and become a part of the solution in your local community. And that's all I had. Sorry I couldn't have slides, but I hope that was helpful. I'm certainly willing to submit those slides afterwards so we can send them out to the membership, and I'm just excited to be here with you today.
Thanks so much, Melinda. We all have to practice our digital resilience at one time or another, right? All right, next up is Amy Wood. Amy, take it away.
Good afternoon. I'm not even going to try to do slides. I told them I just assume just talk and let you just listen and not have to unfortunately you have to be looking at me to the time, and it's not a beautiful slide. But I wanted to, my name is Amy Wood. I am the Executive Director from LARA Educational Opportunities. Like Melinda, I am an adult ed program, which she is actually one of our neighbors. We are located in 5 counties in Region 4 in Indiana. Tippecanoe County being our largest, where I'm located now. And then we have Howard County, Miami County, Carroll County, and White County. Sorry, I had to think that. I just wanted to sort of talk to you today from a little bit of the perspective of being in adult education, and how we are implementing it within our program here, and how we are collaborating with the state, with our Department of Workforce Development. And then just sort of like an overall showing how what the 3 entities are that usually intersect and work together collaboratively to tackle the situation, is something I'll start out with, and then go into a little bit of examples. So we all know we're living in a digital world. We have large age spans these days. I tell everybody I have my mother who is 88 years old. She went from when she was little, had an outhouse to now fast forward all the way that she actually pays her bills online and has to do streaming and everything else that we're doing in this digital world. And to think about how broad and how much of a span of time and learning she's had to do in her life. And then you go to my grandchildren who have grown up in this digital world, and I sometimes have to go to them and ask them how to do something myself because they just naturally it comes to them, and I had to learn it along the way. Had a little bit of a head start of my mother, but definitely something that that I'm still not living, wasn't born into the age. When we talk about the three sectors that are governing together, you're coming together, we're talking about the government, nonprofits, and the private sectors. And just a brief saying how each one actually intersect in each other, what they're mainly responsible about. In the government sector, we have the ones that are making the policy making, the infrastructure and investment, funding the grants, legislation and advocacy. Within that, like policy making is the internet access, affordability, the net neutrality, the privacy issues that we depend on them to cover. And in the infrastructure area, we're looking at the funding for the large scale infrastructure projects like Melinda was talking about before, using some of this funding that's coming down. Our states are utilizing that and doing those in some very exciting ways, as like providing high-speed internet, and especially in our rural areas where they suffer the most. Also, then the government provides that funding and grants that I was just talking about to give us funding that we can, as nonprofits and other sectors in the business world, and that can take advantage of to help with these. An example of what sort of to back off what Melinda said, utilizing one of the grants, our Department of Workforce Development, Department of Education, put out some money that we could actually engage in and utilize by sending a couple of I was able to send a couple of my staff to work collaboratively with other adult ed programs and with the Department of Workforce Development, adult ed at the state level, where they worked on best practices and what would be things that we can do within our adult ed world that is going to help tackle this area. That is one example of how funding can be. And then, of course, they also are big on, we rely on them to be our advocacy and legislation, to ensure protection to our marginalized communities we have. Setting the standards, expanding the service to all areas, rural public places, affordable, and providing that affordable access. The second collaboration, which is where I'm a little more versed in, is the nonprofit, where we provide advocacy, education, and community engagement. We are the ones that are serving and working directly with these marginalized groups. Here in our adult ed programs, we work from the low income, elderly, immigrations, individuals with disabilities, being physical and educational disabilities. So we are working with that marginalized sector and being able to bring some of this digital literacy to our community is very important to us. One way we can also, besides serving, is we can also innovating, solutions, like this pilot that we're doing and preparing the kind of the best practices of what other nonprofits and adult eds can do here in Indiana. They help us also providing, we using platforms like Burlington English, Essential Education, North Star Digital Literacy, being able to prepare our students for testing, and also we contextualize digital literacy within our classrooms every day, because the people that we are serving is actually the ones that need help the most. Then the third area is the private sector, and just briefly, their roles is innovation, market expansion, and partnerships. It's that collaboration between businesses, governments, and nonprofits that is kind of creating that sweet spot. So within adult ed, since we are funded by the Department of Workforce Development, we work a lot directly with our organizations. We have, like Melinda said, she's working directly with the forklift workers. We are in Indiana Packers, which is a hog processing plant, and Kirby Risk, which they do creating lights and lamps and fans and that. We go into those. They have a high population that are not, that language isn't their first language. So English isn't the first language, sorry. And so that we go in and teach them, and like Melinda said, we build our curriculum around the wording they need to be using in the workforce itself. And what's been exciting about that, I will share, I think, that I have seen since we've started this working directly with our companies, is how pleased the companies are, the managers. An example, we had one of the women at Kirby Risk. She was saying how she just has been with Kirby Risk for 3 years, and she just felt really isolated and just felt like she couldn't talk to anybody other than that spoke Spanish like she did. And while she was sharing that all out, I was over talking to her direct supervisor, and I said, "How's this been for you?" She said, "Oh my gosh, it's been amazing." She goes, "It has been," she goes, "it's just opened it up." She goes, "When she first came to us, and over these last 3 years," she goes, "I've probably had 3 to 5 conversations, very small conversations with her." And she goes, "And now I can't shut her up." And which we laughed at, but she said she was talking about the importance of what that has made in their relationship within the workforce. Going on that section, I just wanted to take a few minutes and say, talk about some of the barriers that we are facing here in this digital age world. And one of the ones that, we, of course, I mentioned before, are tackling is those who do English is not their first language. And just a little numbers to throw out. We have 11,000, or we had in 2022, 11,763 people that are immigrants in Indiana. 56% of those 11,000 plus were speaking Spanish, but 44% also was speaking about 67 plus different languages. And you'd be surprised to know that nearly half of them came to us. They come to us at the very lowest levels. So one of the examples there recently that we've discovered in our online process of coming into our program, they have to do an online registration. And we have a large increase in our Haitian population that we have found is it's increasing. It's actually growing about as fast as our Spanish population here locally. And what we were finding, though, is our registration process will translate into 80 plus different languages, but they were not able to read in their own language. So it would take us a good half an hour to sit down with each one of them and walk through how to use the computer, because they have no experience with that alone. And then just having to read it to them and realizing how low literacy they were, and that we have a long way to go to get them to their language, to feel comfortable in their language, that they are comfortable um, in our community. That population, with telling you how much we've grown over the past 2 years, we have increased our English language learners by 62%. So it's important that we are helping them be able to reach, have that access to digital literacy, that not to be able to teach them just the regular literacy. This is something that is something they have to learn alongside of it. That is a struggle. So that's about what I had to bring to the plate, and hopefully, if anybody has any questions, you can ask in the question and answer time.
Absolutely. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration is what I heard, Amy. So important. Next up is Cathie Bledsoe. Cathie, are you going to have more luck with the digital sharing, digital skills, I guess I should say, or digital resilience?
I am going to try as soon as you
All
start
right.
sharing.
Don't forget, you can go ahead and put your questions in chat anytime, and we are going to have a poll after all three of these individuals. So,
Looks like I can share a little bit. How does that look? All right. So my name is Cathie Bledsoe. I am the digital navigator and one of the site coordinators at the Literacy Alliance. Up until last week, I had multiple sites. This week, I'm starting having only one site. It's very exciting for me. I'm just letting you know. I had 3 sites in 3 different counties, 2 very rural counties and Fort Wayne. But thankfully, I have let go of some of that, and we found someone to take over some of that because my position as digital navigator is growing. I believe that, when people say digital navigator, first, you don't know what it is. And second, why would you hire someone to do that? So let me explain something about myself. Okay, we're going to start with my background. I'm a computer geek. I wasn't always a computer geek. I originally was a theater and a dance major. Who knew that I would end up in computers? But thanks to my little brother, I got into computers. I have a bachelor's in science with an emphasis on computer technology and digital design. I wanted to be a game designer once, didn't work out. I have a master's in education and instructional technology. I have taught technology for over 20 years in kindergarten through 12th grade, college level, and juvenile probation. And I've been a computer technician for many of the organizations I've worked for. Right now, I am basically the computer tech for our students' computers. So I still have to have my hands in that a little bit. My first thing to tell you about is what is a digital navigator, because no one knows what that is. The idea is not really new. You just need someone to help people figure out where to go. It can be anybody in the community, doesn't have to be someone with a background in computers, just someone who really likes computers and is willing to learn more. I think the reason why I was selected, honestly, for this position is because several people at Literacy Alliance had knew of me or had heard of me, because before I came to work for the Literacy Alliance, I worked for the state police in Indiana as a digital safety specialist. I traveled throughout the state, going to about 50 different counties, talking to kids about the choices they make online. It wasn't working because I would talk to the children, but the parents were clueless. I am really enjoying being able to get to the heads of the households a little bit more. So I believe that as a digital navigator, my main goal is to help our students become, as we keep saying, digitally resilient. Resilient is really simple. Everything is based on technology. Simple as that. You can't go to the gas station without having to know the gas pump. I can't change the lights in my car or my tires because of the computers that operate my particular functions. Nothing is simple anymore. And something that I don't think people think about was we have actually progressed about 10 years faster than we expected to, thanks to COVID. The whole world shut down, the whole world got online, the whole world provided and shared information. We have AI technology. Nobody knows what that is or how does it work? Is it invasive? We've shared tons of information. The fastest growing career in technology right now is data analysis because there's just so much information going out. And we are expecting people to just change, go from paper and pencil to a laptop. And we always say, and no offense to anyone who believes this, we always talk about how kids already know this. No, the digital natives, in other words, the kids, our kids who all have grown up with this technology, know what they know. But if they have never been exposed to it, they don't know it. Which is one reason why spamming and scamming and phishing and just hacking is so detrimental to our country, United States. So what is digital resilience? Well, digital resilience is trying to teach people simple things, how to adjust from using their phone to do one thing, to using a laptop, to using a Chromebook, to using a tablet. The first thing we have to do is help them understand these are all basically computers, just different shapes and sizes. Some may help you play a game easier than others, or may do a software easier than others, but that has to do with size and functionality, not what it is. So we have to help people get over their fear of computers. I love it when I go on a class and someone says, I don't know anything about this, I'm too old for that. Well, I'm almost 60 years old. And if I can teach it, you can learn it, is usually my answer to them. We have to help people form confidence, understand that they can control elements of what's out there about them, get them committed to sharing safely their information and teaching their children to use it safely, and challenge them to come out of their little boxes of comfort, to accept that this is the new age and we don't have any more excuses. We can't do that anymore. The other thing that I hear a lot is people want to know what actually is digital literacy. It's kind of funny, when I started working for the Literacy Alliance, people said, oh, you have to teach all those people to read. And I'm like, literacy means more than just being able to read a book. I believe we are a career site. We prepare people for their next step. We're not just saying, get your GED and that's it. We help our students get into colleges. We help our students find jobs. We go into, just like the other speakers were speaking, we go into companies where maybe English is not a first language, and we bring that to them. So just to make this a little bit of interesting, I would like to know if you guys would like to do a little thing with me and tell me what you think digital literacy is. 1 or 2 words. Please join. Don't make me look stupid. I do that on my own. Give you a couple of seconds more, because then I'll just go on. There we go. We got 1 participant. Love it, love it, love it. I love games. Function with technology. That's a good one. Adaption. Perfect. Comfort with computers. Someone put in the chat. Ability to use technology. How to use a computer. The ability to use a computer to get things done, what you need to get done. How to correctly communicate online. Fun. I'm glad somebody put that word in. That's why I'm still into computing this as old as I am. Writing emails and using media. Yes. Any more? Learning how to learn new systems. Comprehension. Very good. Using tools to collaborate. My favorite one, using the internet safely. That's a huge one. And it is necessary. All right, very good. I love those. I'm going to go ahead and go on. Thank you for participating in my little poll. Knowledge. Oh, definitely. So this is the definition of digital literacy. It's the skills associated with using technology. It's the skills associated with evaluating, organizing, creating, and communicating. Simple as that. Now, one thing that I have found is the safe way of using it and using it to communicate information is lacking. So one big aspect of my job when I go into our classrooms, I teach for our GED program and our intermediate ELL program. I teach digital literacy for those classes. And I try to make sure that every lesson I teach is real world based. So I don't come in and teach how to do a PowerPoint. If I was going to teach how to do a PowerPoint, it wouldn't be about your life. It would be something that they would actually need to do in their careers. So we don't do PowerPoints in my class. Sorry, we probably will one day, but right now, I think they need to learn things like how to format a job resume, how to search online safely. I recently, as a matter of fact, earlier today, I taught a class on how to spot fake news. We went to a website that had actual fake Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts that had been notoriously out there bad, that were eventually traced to Russian trolls or various other organizations, and showed them, gave them a choice. Is this real or is this fake? And it was very hard for our students to determine what was fake news. And they never thought about the fact that the fake news was actually there, has been there all this time. We just called it fake news instead of tabloids or scandal sheets or yellow journalism. And we talked about how easy we are manipulated thanks to social engineering because of the technology we use. The other thing I've taught my students about is how to read, how to send a proper email, but also how to recognize a phishing email if they got it. See, these are things they really need to be able to do. I think sometimes we forget that we are teaching the student, not the skill. What does the student need should be the bottom line. So in our digital literacy program, we try very hard not to just focus on skills, but we do teach skills. I have them do some typing. We call it Typing Tuesday, just so they can get that muscle memory of practice of typing, because all of us have to keyboard sometime. I don't teach a typing class because we're way too old to learn that, but I do teach how to just use the keyboard. I teach them what the computer is. I'm probably the first person some of them have ever met that said your phone is a computer. And it blew minds. And if that meant I had to show them the inside of a phone to convince them that there was a motherboard and a processor, I'm going to do that because I need them to think differently about the technology. Of course, I'm teaching them about how to use a spreadsheet because they can do that for budgeting, or they may get a job and want to do accounting or bookkeeping. There's so many different ways they can use it. I personally use spreadsheets to help my senior in high school do math because the computer does math way better than I do. I talked to them about word processing. This next unit is going to be writing resumes because we have them do mock interviews at our location. I have another one coming up. We're going to talk about what is AI and how is AI used. Earlier today, I was showing some videos to students on how Google works to come up with their search to help them better understand. Now, one of the biggest problems with most organizations that, you want me to share that fake news? Okay, stopthetroll.org. I'll put that in the chat. It's a great, or excuse me, spotthetroll.org. That is a great site. And my students loved it. I will tell you though, it's probably more for adults than children because these are some real trolls with some real hardcore, scary stuff that they put out. So I really think we should think about how are we approaching to our students. One thing that I get from a lot of people is who has the time to start adding digital navigation or digital literacy to their program. You can have 3 ways you can do it. Give them a specific assignment. I gave them assignment, send me an email, make it proper, show me the right way to do it, or add it into something, or integrate it. We write essays here, and I have teach Word, how to format in Word as part of our essays. So there's a lot of ways we can continue sharing and increasing our students' knowledge with the digital navigation. And hopefully you all are like me, wanting to really make a difference. Thank you.
Cathie, I think you're one of the first digital navigators, and I think you're the first in Indiana. You might be the first like nationwide. I'd love to know if
I'm,
any other states have digital navigators. I know it's a future
I,
thing.
I regularly look on Indeed and try to link to anyone who has digital navigator as a title so that maybe we can like share some ideas and how we're doing it. So I know there are a few, but yeah, it's a rare honor.
All right, well, now it's time for you to answer a few questions. All of you girls come on screen. We have a few poll questions to see if you were paying attention. Dun, da, da, da. So, what does BEAD stand for? I believe Melinda provided the answer to that. So go ahead, answer that poll. How much BEAD funding was allocated for distribution by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Acts of 2021? Just one answer. Melinda gave the answer to that one. And which sector do you think should lead in improving digital access and inclusion? So go ahead and answer those questions. I'm going to start sharing again. And Lindsay, let me know if when we're ready to share results. Looks like we've got around 37 participants. I don't know if that number counts us or not. So, all right. Looks like 31% got it right. Melinda, help me out here. Do you see the results as well? Nope, so there it is. Okay, I was scrolled down too far. I was like 69% got it correct, right, Melinda? And Melinda, number 2, looks like, yep, 75% got that right. Now, Amy, I think the question should be number 3. I think it's all equally. Looks like 29% got that right. What do you think?
That's what I was aiming for.
There we go.
But
Awesome.
you know, we can always and put it on that it's up to our government to, because they do provide the funding to us. So I'm all
Well,
in favor of that as well.
there's that. All right. So in the interest of time, we're going to skip how do you define digital equity, because I think that we've already done that. What unique roles do government, nonprofits, and the private sector play in digital inclusion? Which one of you want to grasp that question?
That's what I kind of covered in my when I was speaking about the 3 different roles and how we collaborate together.
So do you think you answered it good? Do we need to add anything on to that?
I just want to add one thing. I am constantly getting requests from other not-for-profits to come in and talk or teach their staff about how to incorporate digital literacy. There are lots of available material. I recently was on a group called working on the DRAW program, Digital Resilience in the American Workforce. You'd be surprised at how much material is already out there. You don't need one person to come in. You just need somebody who's willing to make the effort on the non-for-profit level.
Absolutely. The next question is, well, maybe it'll go. Melinda accidentally got kicked off. She lost her connection. So that's what happened to
Oh, no.
Melinda. So sorry about that. Digital resilience. We've got to move on though. There, finally it's going to go. I think my connection might be a little slow as well. Can you share successful examples of state association collaboration driving meaningful change in digital access? Amy, I think you've got this one.
Yeah, that I mentioned when I was speaking before about how working with Department of Workforce Development, they had created that basically a training to come together and brought a few different adult ed programs together and worked on best practices, how you can integrate digital literacy in your everyday classroom. And then, and then being able to take that training out, almost made train the trainers and take it so that they are able to go out and now share this with other adult eds with that throughout the state. Was a great example, I thought, of how our state association collaborated with adult ed.
We've been collaborating with the Department of Workforce Development for, I'm going to say, like 7 or 8 years on our conference, as well as so many other things. So collaboration, honestly, is truly the key. Now, Cathie, I think this one is yours. What are the barriers to digital equity? Because you mentioned it a little bit, but is there a cross-sector collaboration that could overcome them?
Well, one of my biggest problems is that when we talk about digital inclusion and digital equity, we are talking about, number one, you have to have access. If there's no access, that's the biggest problem right there. I know we had the now I just went blank on it.
Connectivity.
There you go, affordable connectivity program that was a real big push like last year and the year before, but it doesn't do any good if you are pushing everyone gets a computer or everyone gets technology in the area where you really have really bad internet connection. The other thing that I am seeing a problem with is we are doing digital equity and we're trying to make a cookie cutter that fits everyone, and that doesn't work. Even in our own program, I've had students who were paralyzed on one side of their body. How can they type an essay for a GED if they can only use one hand? I've had students with all kinds of learning disabilities. I'm dyslexic myself, so I understand the challenges of just having to read a screen all the time. Yes, and I still went into computers, go figure. So we have to broaden our ideas of what digital equity is. I know we're not going to please everyone, but we should have a minimum requirement that everyone should be able to access computers and have the technology to connect. That's right.
There's been some great sessions this week, so I'll just do a little plug. There, a lot of what Cathie just talked about was covered in one of the sessions. They're all blending together. I'm thinking it was Mondays that I watched that had a little bit of that. So you can watch all of these recordings again. So just saying. So how do we ensure that digital inclusion initiatives are sustainable and adaptable as technology evolves? This is a deep one.
That's a big one. Yeah, it is a deep one.
Cathie, I think, has an answer.
There again, I think I'm going to go back to the whole collaboration aspect. We need all of the sectors to make sure that we're moving forward. We're not going backwards. We're not going to go back to the days before we had computers, and we're only evolving. I mean, look how. I grew up in the 80s that when the computers were just coming online and think about the cell phones that you first came out with. Now the size of them, are a palm of your hand and that's just going to keep going and going. So I think staying educated and staying vigilant in learning what is the next thing, still collaborating with our government, our state associations, with other nonprofits, helping each other, working with our businesses that are, quickly evolving in the AI world, and knowing what all of that involves. It's going to take everybody, because we're not going backwards. This is the digital age we live in, and it's just going to get deeper and deeper.
Cathie, do you have something to
add? Yeah, I just want to add that we also need to look at who are the real shareholders. For us, we were able to get grants through Comcast to fund the concept of a digital navigator. They also gave us computers, because how can I teach anyone how to use it if we don't have it. But we also need to think about what other shareholders. We partner with Ivy Tech, one of our community colleges, and Indiana Tech, another of our colleges. We need to get everyone who has a hand in educating the populace to make us stronger and better. And we all got to learn technology. We need to get everyone to do their equal part. So asking for grants from businesses or asking for access to software that maybe you had to pay for, but maybe a couple organizations can come together and bring the cost down. It doesn't have to just be on the not-for-profit's shoulders. The for-profit businesses will benefit from us training a stronger population when it comes to technology. So they should foot some of the bill too. I don't think the government gonna do it because I worked for them for a while, but that's
all right. What I will say at the point whenever it comes to perspectives is that collaboration is truly the key. And it's not just with your state association. I think the state association brings together the community and the community of collaboration. And I think that's the best thing that a state association can do for all of their members and programs. Building that community, building that collaboration is truly a key in so many things. Now, we're going to go to Q&A. So if you have a question for the panelist, and remember, there could be a prize. So go ahead and throw it in chat or the Q&A section. We have just a few minutes. There was a question in there, and I will tell you that Melinda has an outage in her area. That's why she dropped off. She cannot get back on. The true irony of that, right? But if you remember, if we had a little anonymous person at the beginning that was submitting a bunch of stuff and doing a lot of emojis. There we go. That digital, we had to have digital resilience to power through that. I think we did a good job. I think the question that they asked was, I don't think it was relevant. So it was about creating a call center. I'm not sure how that plays into what we were talking about, but I am just waiting for that one question. Somebody, oh, yay.
There's one down there.
Nellings, Paladina, Paladina. I hope I'm pronouncing your name. Where can we find material about digital literacy that we can share with our students? Well, I will say for IAACE's page, we have digital page that has all kinds of links on it. COABE also has a page that Michael talked about in the last session. We can throw that in the chat as well. Cathie just threw another link in chat. There are so many, and whenever we share our PowerPoint presentation, I can throw some of that stuff in at the end to make sure that it's all covered.
I'd say it's fair to say, like you just said, IAACE, COABE, with, any of these places that you frequently already are a part of, everybody's got this information that you can go and get more.
The DRAW program that I was a part of, Digital Resilience in the American Workforce, pulled together so many resources. That's why I keep sending people there, just because you can find anything about North Star or typing programs or I usually go there when I'm working on a lesson. I start there first and then I stand out to see if I need to find more. But someone asked the question, so many people do not understand how it affects them not having this. One thing I try to make sure, this is why I always teach the pro and a con of a lesson. If I teach them how to search the internet, I teach them about phishing. That brings it back to them. They can start to understand it. If I teach them how to send in, how to search the internet, I teach them about fake news. People need to see it balanced. They need to see the good and the bad, and then they can make a connection to it, and we have to do that.
Some questions in the Q&A. What is the best digital literacy resource that you are aware of?
Since everything keeps changing, I'm constantly looking for new stuff. again, that's why I like programs like the DRAW program, IWACE digital skills page that I go to sometimes, any webinar that's out there, Common Sense Media. There's just so much. And since it's constantly changing all the time, I have to be available to tie, you know, I put aside Monday as my day to do my deep dive into what information I can find.
And we'll sneak this one in. How do you convince them how do you convince the importance of this? Pamela Buchanan. That's a real deep
I
one.
think that,
yeah. I just
yeah,
really think
I mean,
in my
the
case,
importance of just knowing how to function. You
yeah,
know, we right now, how many times a day do you have to go in and change a password to get into something? You know, so I hear a lot of times my staff will say, "Oh, they won't go back in to get that off of their account," and I said, because they don't remember the password, and I said, well, that's where we educate them, and we say, how many times do you change your password, you know, or have to retrieve it and know how to do that? So if we're not going to function if we don't all keep learning and moving on with the technology.
Pamela, you are the lucky
doctors.
winner. So Pamela, if you'll throw your email address in the chat, you can direct it to just the panelists if you like, and you're going to get a special prize delivered to your email box. Yay, we love prizes. Well, that brings us to the end of today's panel discussion. I want to take a moment to thank our esteemed panelists. Bravo, ladies. I think that you were insightful and that I think there was some thought-provoking dialogue. So we've covered a lot of ground. We will provide the slides to COABE so that they can distribute them. It's truly clear that collaborations play a crucial role in our efforts. It is essential that we collaborate to close the digital divide. And as we look ahead, it's essential to these conversations to build on the ideas that we shared today. The digital landscape is constantly evolving, and our challenge is to ensure that creative, sustainable, adaptive initiatives that meet the need of all our communities. I encourage you each to think about how you can contribute to this effort in your own capacity, whether it's through partnerships, collaborations, advocacy, hands-on action in your communities. Together, we can truly make a difference. Thanks so much for being a part of this important discussion today. I want to thank everyone behind the scenes. That's Miss Lindsay for all the extra work that she did last minute for us. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.